Hey folks, we're back here on a late Smackdown review. Yeah, just like Rollins' picture, this is going to be shorter than you expected. Uh, yeah, we had our acclaimed bar fight for Smackdown just a night ago, and of course, we had a shocker match, which Alexa Bliss facing off against Nikki Cross to be the number one contender for a future match against Bayley for the SmackDown Women's title. The only thing that pissed me off was practically why Sasha Banks was holding onto the Raw Women's Championship instead of her being stripped, even though she was literally called out for after the backlash match on Raw. So how come nobody was holding onto the belt? Thinks it's considered vacant after Stephanie McMahon issued that neither both Asuka and Sasha Banks are champion. That's the only thing that confused me. I know she's either holding it to the factor that we could render her still in her own mind champion. I just find that dumb. The match with Alexa and Nikki wasn't that bad in my aspects of the match for a Nikki Cross match, because I obviously don't like the chick. I feel like they made her borderline retarded in the aspect of her just being silly, kooky, crazy, and quirky, and being a nice girl, and she just continuously loses matches week after week after week. And it's so dumb. They finally got her picking up a big victory against her own friend. They did end up patching things up, having the most cliched work stuff out because we're close friends backstage segment, even though it's way better whenever Alexa Bliss is heel, and we could have just had a tease that Alexa deserved to win that match and try to pick up a victory over Bayley. But what is WWE storytelling? It's either going to last a month or at least 2 months if you're a part-timer. The match was fine. Kicks, running Meteora, a double knee strike over a moonsault. There was a twisting neck breaker around the outside of the ring. A good sell over to the legs. This match was just borderline fine with the attempts of stringing up conflict nearby at Sasha Banks and Bayley. Nikki Cross picked up the roll-up pin victory in this okay, forgettable match. In the contents of no storytelling over conflict, thanks Alexa is a former SmackDown Women's Champion. And it's just dumb. I didn't mind, but this is like Nikki Cross having another match where she's probably going to lose off some outside interference. It's already Bayley having the most forgettable, longest reign for a women's champion in history. She's springing up nearly 300 days of being champion into the aspect of me not remembering any match that she had. And the Four Horsewomen is supposed to be this prestigious legion of women professional wrestling. Even though each time a female main event, they pull the worst ratings because of their lack of storytelling or any sort of appeal for a new viewer to watch. That's not being disrespectful, it's a fact. And by just strong-arming the fact over the most fake-looking head of hair I've seen on a woman in a minute. Match was fine. Nikki Cross gets a title shot. Matt Riddle beats Tony Nese in a close one. Over the factor that Tony Nese is from 205 Live. Who did you expect to win this match? Decent bicycle knees. Nice ways of exploder suplexes. A fisherman. He's just chucking around Tony Nese until he ends it with a submission. And the match was a fine squash to display a bit of course, Matt Riddle's talents. Then King Corbin came out of nowhere off Riddle calling him out. And then Baron Corbin just exposing, sorry for the stutter, the vocab word for today's. Corbin came around just denouncing and just saying that Riddle deserves to be on NXT a bit more, in 205 Live. go back to the square circle. You don't belong in my ring. Even though this guy jobs out to everybody in the feud, I don't get why Corbin is still on television. It's just bad. Even to the implex that he's supposed to be getting guys over, or the implex of him getting some heel heat while consistently losing. What's the it factor other than it looks like Corbin beat up some guy in Burger King and stole a fur coat from a 99-cent store? There's no factor over legitimizing or at least getting a guy like Matt Riddle over by the factoid of a jobber that's not going to get a man over. It could have been anybody else. And we just now, over later half of the show, we finally have Otis on television. The reason why he had a 2-week absence off television, no one knows. He hasn't even been referenced on pay-per-view, even though he's cool somehow with Braun Strowman while being Mr. Money in the Bank. Something about the bro show, blah, Corbin's forgettable, unquotable promos. It looks like they're going to be in a future feud that, of course, Riddle's going to win. Over the factor of anybody, just no one cares about Corbin, and Riddle barely has much of a interest factor other than his matches are good. I'm not denouncing that he's not a bad wrestler. He's a fun wrestler to watch, and the best shot everybody can take about him is his toes. I mean that he wrestles barefooted. Even Umaga wrestled barefooted. Rusev at one point wrestled a bit barefooted. Many wrestlers wrestled barefooted. I don't get that. I don't get the factor of insulting on the WWE unless they sort of say a cuss word. Of course, we had the dirt sheet. Of course, with Morrison thinking that he's funny, and of course, Miz with Morrison struggling to think of a hashtag. Former IC champion, everybody. Of course, we had them referencing over a ploy, a media ploy for Naomi to get herself irrelevant to the factoid of the Naomi deserves better hashtag that's been happening over after her loss to Lacey Evans over the past coming weeks. I don't know where particularly this came from. It's either another Stan Twitter page that somehow had to remember that Naomi was relevant, even though she lost to Dana Brooke. Anytime, even though nobody cares about Dana Brooke, yet an up-and-coming NXT superstar that's trying to get her name up there, and we now turn her heel. You have a problem with her picking up a victory against a legitimate wrestler? I don't understand how this is a bad thing, other than the factor that either they're doing this for some sort of attention, and Naomi's just milking over this for just some dumb feud with Lacey Evans that she's probably going to do because 50-50 booking. So it ended up with surprise guest being Lacey Evans, and then jumping her with the consistent jokes over the puke faces of Seth Rollins. Because we're memeable, we're funny, we're quirky. I remember the only thing that made me laugh with the dirt sheet was the segment mimicking Joey Styles, and then saying that his mom lives in his basement with this incredibly fake Jewish voice. And it was hilarious, because I really think Joey Styles behaves like that. Next up, we of course had Big E getting Kofi Kingston's blessing over suffering an injury after the tables match against Cesaro and Shinsuke. I do not want to reference the Shinsuke and Cesaro promo, other than the fact that they're building up some sort of dominance factor with them over for the chances, because there's technically nobody in the tag team division. If they're trying to get out Kofi Kingston, that's bad. The Forgotten Son's already been written out of TV for social media, and the Lucha House Party suck. So there's nobody in the tag division, and they're not trying to sell any sort of tag team with Otis and Tucker, because Otis is Money in the Bank. And if they do it to probably just sell up a breakup angle, I will bet money on that. I will bet money. Of course, we have Kofi Kingston, of course, giving a blessing. Somehow you need a blessing now for your friend to actually go for your personal goals and try to be a top star. And I guess it was pretty much a decent, heartwarming promo for Kofi Kingston to be really grateful, going over thick and thin, over the up and downs. Even when he was WWE champion, he's been incredibly selfless. From and wants him to make a name for himself and want him to succeed just like he did. So I thought it was pretty much a heartwarming promo, and how humble Biggie was. It really got to me because I thought Biggie was literally the best part of the literally the second or the number one best part of the New Day, because his personality was so funny, flashy, and it was entertaining every time he was on screen, even though how incredibly dangerous his wrestling can be at times. So I thought that was a thoughtful segment. Of course, we had, our Fatal 4-Way, and I think this is going to be a majority of my complaint with the episode of SmackDown. The IC Championship, held by a midget. The number one contender spot was a Fatal 4-Way. Not for SummerSlam, hopefully, because I don't want to see Grand Metalik and AJ Styles on pay-per-view. That's a fact. But Grand Metalik will face off against AJ Styles. Decent Fatal 4-Way match. But the problem was the majority of them were fucking midgets. But Shawn Michaels wasn't above 250 pounds. Shawn Michaels was a personality. He looked tall and he looked like he can beat you up. Not Grand Metalik, not Drew Gulak. He looks like he would take a pull stick to the face. Shorty G looks like my youngest brother can beat him up. And of course, we had Lince Dorado that will never win a match in the WWE. This was just the most forgettable Fatal 4-Way I've probably seen in history. Moonsaults, decent counters for the ankle locks that were broken up. Belly to belly to German suplexes for a chain for a pin that never gets a 3 count. A running elbow drop goes nowhere. A bit of deception with the Lucha House Party. The match was going fine. With the instance, as soon as Grand Metalik got the surprise upset win against Shorty G with the elbow, Lince Dorado, after AJ Styles hit a slap on him, Lince Dorado wasn't angry because he cost him the Fatal 4-Way match. I don't get that. I don't get that. No storytelling. Just if we're friends until the end. Like none of that shit like Batista and Rey Mysterio had. Like year-long friends and a desperate Batista would take anybody, even shutting his friends off. That was something you would like to see, and it was super personal. Except the Eddie's dead thing. That got me. I don't know why I'm laughing about that. It's just a memory. And WWE's all about creating memories. Negatively. It's just... The match was okay on the aspect of this. If this was for the Cruiserweight Championship, it would have been fine. Except we have a lumberjack, a midget looking like Gregory Helms without the knee pads. Shorty G used to be a better wrestler. Used to be a funner wrestler to look at, and the Lucha House Party just ripped off the Lucha Dragons theme song, and we don't even have Kalisto anymore on SmackDown for some apparent reason. And it ended up in a basic match. Styles came with a jump. It was literally just 4 midgets fighting for the secondary most prestigious belt in the business. Into the aspect of nothing. I don't even know why these guys are wrestling. It could have been just Corbin, and Riddle revolving around the Intercontinental Championship, and Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan somehow written off TV. We saw him on like a video screen reacting to a match. I think the IC title match with Riddle and Styles. So it looks like he's off TV for a while. It's just, I don't want to see this again. Like, if I see midgets fighting for the WWE Championship, I'm pretty much going to write off. Because, like, as soon as, like, I heard that there's nobody credible for the Intercontinental Championship match, I just thought, what? What happened? Lince Dorado, Grand Metalik, Drew Gulak, and Chad Gable. I'm going to call him Chad Gable. Don't at me, I swear to God. Nobody wants to watch that. Nobody. That's harsh, These guys must be hardworking men that worked hard to be here. I'm never gonna disrespect the work ethic, the work ethic that it takes to be in the WWE, but nobody cares. We of course we were of course the trailer to a constant segment over the building up love. So they're just gonna recap because I don't think they have any other wrestlers to fill up the time gap for a freaking wrestling show worth 2 hours. If you want to make the matches longer, or at least make better segments, they're gonna go over and probably recap the entire love angle with Mandy and Otis for the probably 3 weeks before they bring him back on TV. And no Tucker, some apparent reason, with literally Otis holding the biggest ticket for a title shot. Tucker doesn't want to put himself for the Intercontinental Championship or something. It's dumb because actually he's an underrated wrestler. And we have the bar fight for the main event of Smackdown. Uh, Listen, I'm all about it's fine. We had JBL because if you didn't, well, I think this was No Mercy or Vengeance of I think 2003, and Ron Simmons and JBL were literally in a bar fight. And I guess that was the relevance of him because of that one segment, and plus they drank beer a lot back in the APA. It's just this match was just in the aspect of just a really forgettable feud. Like this will be forgettable in like probably a couple months until I reference it because I'm reviewing this. So I'm just gonna keep this in my head because it's torturing me. This match was just they referenced the bar. Jeff throwing a drink. Like Sheamus doesn't know that the cheap tactics that Jeff Hardy would use whenever you have a bottle of alcohol, like he's gonna really drink it. And they of course have the little metrosexual bartender there dishing out the drinks, and I hate looking at his face because he has a dumbass earring on. That match dished out into the bathroom. That Jeff Hardy got sprayed in the face with a urinal, and Sheamus got tossed into a toilet. Running clotheslines, uh, running splash into the wall. I think he got tossed around with small basketballs, and a power bomb spot that somehow you call for the ref so minutely. I understand you were tired, but there's no way to grab a drink, so I just obviously knew Jeff was going to pick up a win here. So Jeff somehow, out of nowhere, had the time to pick up face paint and contacts, white eye contacts, knock out Sheamus, hit him with a swanton bomb with a convenient ladder near the bartending table, and end the match 1, 2, 3. To get rid of his personal demons, Corey. You don't know how much of the bullying Sheamus has been doing over the last coming weeks. It's so amazing what I can do here with my 2-inch dick. It's just so amazing, Corey. It's oh my god, kill me, kill me. This was such a minute feud. Now, thankfully, this would be an ending, just so we can get something. Because we had no Braun Strowman, and as much as I hate Braun Strowman, he's the world champion. That means the show revolves around the top guy. He should always be the constant source of conversation. Thinks he's the top guy. He's the top of the food chain. I always expect this in a show, or else there's no point. The major storylines had to do with an outdated alcoholic problem, even though Jeff also had an issue with drugs more than alcoholism and more other traumatic issues in his past. And I understand the factoid of trying to do something in respect for Jeff to put him on television, but why couldn't this just also revolve around the world title or something? These are former world champions that obviously have a pristine past, and, you know, you could have just put the minute shots of his personal issues to just stick more poison to get in his head, and we could have just had this be like a few weeks or something, not months, like 2 months. and for 50-50 booking already, and they just ended it on SmackDown. What was the point? What were the factors that just WWE likes doing cinematic shit for some apparent reason? And it's not for more in-depth storylines so we can just do dumb basic Easter eggs. Oh my god, Alexa Bliss was Sister Abigail the entire time. Shut up! This match was dumb. The finish was predictable and awe-inspiring bar fights. Thanks, we already saw in the Stadium Stampede with Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, and Jake Hager. Like in the most basic spot of all, of course, dragging Jeff Hardy on the bartender's table and hitting him with all the alcohols and glasses and tossing him on the table and then chopping him with your own fist with that dumb little spot while there's no counts because the crowd isn't even there to react. Didn't even hear the sound of the crowd. It was complete silence. So there was no innate reaction coming from the crowd. Thanks, you can literally just see it on the screen. This was just a really weak episode of SmackDown, folks, and think differently. Please comment down the comments below if you think this was watchable. Every SmackDown episode was watchable. Elitist didn't even review SmackDown for the last 2 weeks, and I'm doing a late review because of how piss poor SmackDown has been. We have a lackluster roster, and how come we never thought of killing off 205 Live, killing off this dumb brand split, because either we don't have enough wrestlers to work with, they fall off, they get sick, they get COVID because of the dumb health rules. WWE is either inconsistent, forget, or you just pass up, or the wrestlers just leave out to begin with because they forget we need to live to work. So, this was a dumb episode of SmackDown. And I'm not blaming the circumstances. WWE just can't make a good television show. It's basic. You can't just blame WWE's booking. They can't make a good show, and the booking sucks, and the wrestlers suck. If you have to tell me for the Intercontinental Championship, the second most important belt in the business, I have to see Grand Metalik, Drew Gulak, Shorty G, and Lince Dorado fight for that belt, and they weigh as much as my middle brother. There's a problem. There's a huge problem. And it sucks. AJ could have been just working with Corbin, Riddle, or somebody else that they could have got from NXT, and they just written off the Forgotten Sons for such a retarded reason. Yeah, God, this is just terrible. It's a 4 out of 10. Nah, 3. SmackDown needs to be better, seriously. It's the most consumable show to watch currently on the main roster, and I don't count NXT for anything. And it's just poor. This is just a poor episode of SmackDown. I mean, other than the opening match, there's been nothing. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. And please wait for more. Jamal Adams just got traded, by the way. You guys are also NFL fans, because I know a lot of you watch at least some of my NFL news. Jamal Adams just been traded to the Seahawks. I don't know where, but it's a big thing for me. Thanks for watching.